Preliminary data from the Ministry of Manpower point to stronger than anticipated labour market conditions in Q3 2025, supported by continued economic growth. Really? How come on the ground things look so different? I mean, we see other reports saying other things, like this Asia One report saying more companies in Singapore set to freeze wages as economic outlook worsens. Singapore Business Federation survey. And on social media, right, people are actually documenting their own journey of putting up hundreds of applications only to be ignored repeatedly. Is the current local job market as rosy as what the government points it out to be? Or is there some underlying signs of trouble that the rosy statistics that were presented, right, were not shown? Well, I feel like I need to chime in on the states from my context as a small business employer. So quite many people commented and messaged me privately after a post I put up on Facebook in end November. Yeah, it's about the job market in Singapore. And I get people agreeing mostly, and a few complete strangers even wanted to meet me to chat and discuss about the seriousness of the matter. So to set the context of my experience in this matter, right? So many years ago, I was a civil servant employed in a so-called iron rice bowl industry. I knew nothing about the real world outside, aside from the fact that I know I work pretty fair hours compared to many corporates. So my pay was also pretty competitive, even though I'm just a diploma holder. So together with my wife, I think we could claim that we were in the top 20% of income earners, being able to afford a condo, bring up 2 kids comfortably, and we even had 2 cars. Then after 20 years of working for a salary, I left my cushy job to become an entrepreneur. And my wife also did the same. So at first, even though we had a company, right, a private limited, no less, we really were, well, fooling people when we called ourselves business owners. Everything was done by us, and I was the chief everything officer. So more befittingly, I think I should term myself as a self-employed then. So come 2 years later, when our business did better, we began to hire. So from 1 employee to a height of 10 full-time salaried workers in 2024. Yes, half of my team were in the Philippines and Indonesia, but they are still full-time staff, not contract or gig workers. So you can say that I have some experience in being an employee myself to becoming an employer. And here's my observation on the job market here. You see if you agree or not, all right? So first, this is going to make some people angry. I find that many Singaporean job seekers are pampered. I mean, it's really true. In the many years that I've been hiring, right, I've encountered all sorts of job seekers, but mostly the not so good ones. Now, applicants whom I have contacted for interview but never turn up, or at least turn up late, and applicants who don't prepare for their interview. And I'm not even talking about them researching about my company, which is bad enough. But I'm referring to those who don't even know how to introduce themselves. I've also met divas, those who expect to work from home even though the job was for a camera operator. Or they are asking for regular office hours even though we are a service-based company. And there were those who expected a $4,000 starting salary just because he is a uni grad and he's, in his word, very keen to learn from me, even though he didn't know what my company does. And funny enough, right, there were also those who didn't know what they have applied for. So perhaps, these were the ones who sent out hundreds of copy and paste applications. So I'm not really saying that there are no Filipinos or Indonesians who were like that. Yes, they were, but you wouldn't believe how many of such applicants I get locally compared to the more serious, hungrier job seekers overseas. Second, young Singaporean job seekers, especially graduates, they don't want to generalize. And because I'm running a small business, right, I need all-rounders. I cannot afford like 20 staff each specializing in only one thing. Now, for instance, right, I need my videographers to be able to edit, not every day, but once in a while. They also are expected to be able to contribute ideas during our weekly team alignment. And my marketing executive has to know about how we do videos, and he is expected to go down to our shoots too. And our producer, which is supposed to be multi-faceted, multi-discipline role anyway by definition, has to also to have communication skills with clients and team members. She also needs creative skills to write scripts and logistical adaptability to find venues to solve problems, and perhaps even partake in manning the camera once in a while. But many of these applicants, right, while to be fair to them, they normally will not say no to wearing different hats during the interview. In practice, it's different. The part about I am keen to learn oftentimes erode to become, I think I'm comfortable doing just this, so can I not do the other things or not? So another example I have is AI, and I honestly thought that teaching them to utilize AI is a good thing for their professional and personal development. But after the lessons, they never touch the AI tools that we got them for anyway. So they prefer to fall back on the comfortable way of doing things their way. Anyway, on to the third point, and this is going to make me sound like a dinosaur boss, but out of all the generations, right, Gen Zs are the worst. Now, I honestly don't like to stereotype like this, but out of like 10 Gen Zs, 8 to 9 of them either give me some attitude, or they just cannot learn, or they don't like to be given tasks or projects outside of those they are familiar with. They turn up late, at times an hour late, they don't answer their messages, and some have very well defined boundaries of when they will when they will reply, even though it is company policy to reply to messages at all times. I just expect a reply from them, not making them work. And this is due to the nature of what we do in video production, right? So of course, there are the good ones whom we have hired before, but unfortunately, since I'm a small company, I cannot keep talents beyond a few years because younger staff would want to experience other opportunities, or they cannot accept the lower salary that I offer compared to obviously the bigger salaries, the bigger companies, right? Anyway, before I go on to my fourth observation, can you can you help me to give this video a like and subscribe to this new channel since you have watched until this point? So your help is greatly appreciated as I start building this channel and bring to you more topics like this one. So do share this video with your job hunting friends or even family members who could be recently being laid off. So perhaps I'm sharing here would help them too. Alright, let's continue with the fourth point, and I'm talking about the Gen Xs. Now, Gen Xs like me are also in trouble. Generally, of all the Gen X applicants I've interviewed or hired, most are quite hungry for the job, and they are more willing to do anything, and they are more genuine in wanting to learn. But the problem is I cannot afford Gen Xs. Their lowest asking salaries are like 1.5 to 2 times higher than starting fresh diploma graduates pay. And these are even those with little to no experience in my industry. And for those with more than like 10 years of experience, right, even like 5 to 9 years only, I cannot even afford them. And broadly, while this group has a wealth of life experience, when judging specific to my business, they cannot compete with the younger generation in terms of ideas, trends, and energy. Just social media alone, at best, most Gen X job applicants have a Facebook account that's used to just stalk people, or maybe a LinkedIn account created just because of the job application, and that's it. They don't understand TikTok and Instagram trends. They don't know what are the effective form of videos, and they cannot even put themselves to watching YouTube videos outside their preferred genres for the sake of research. Well, to be honest, there are some millennials and Gen Zs who are like that. They are the same, but Gen X, right, are pretty resistant to change. Perhaps not because they don't want to, but they don't know how to. And the reality is, once these Gen X lose their jobs, right, they find it extremely difficult to be rehired. And coming from an employee's perspective, you should understand that bosses hire based on merits and not necessarily qualification type of merits, but the experience type of merits. We also hire based on perceived performance and of course their expected salary as well. So no company really, we need or rather we owe it to the job seekers to pay what they're asking for, because there will always be someone who is willing to work for less. And it's just the way it works, right? And what's worst of all, while Gen X has life experience, in many small businesses, such experience don't matter much. Sure, government entities and big corporations, they value such experience and they can afford to pay. But how many small businesses can afford a $8,000 salary for a videographer when a 22-year-old is asking for $2,500? And this younger chap, right, is even more savvy in other areas than the veteran. And last but certainly not least, AI is really replacing humans. Now, this is a sad truth. And for a small business with limited funds, if I can save a $3,500 headcount by using a $200 per month AI replacement, which can do maybe 50 to 70% of the human's job, right? Who won't do that? Again, this isn't about being humane or not. This is for the survival of the company. I mean, sure, if my profits are like $1 million monthly, I surely would be able to pay $100,000 to $200,000 in salaries, right? But you must remember that many small businesses don't even break $1 million in revenue, not profits, mind you, in a whole year. So on some years, right, we are even struggling below $400,000 with monthly expenses of $30,000+. We're just barely trying to keep our heads above the water. Heck, I've even known so many small businesses that make less than 6 figures yearly, and laugh all that you want and judge all that you can. But these people are doing the best they can already, and business just ain't good enough to cover their manpower costs. So when AI offers a lifeline at possibly even free, don't blame the employers in letting go of humans who cannot even do their jobs properly, let alone compete with AI. I mean, for me, right, I had to even let go of my marketing exec and even my producer because an agentic AI can do like 10 times more at 10 times cheaper. My YouTube posts, including my wife's videos, right, all the ideas are conceived using AI. We don't even need to research anymore, and the baseline scripts for our videos, they're all done using ChatGPT, refined over maybe like 5 to 8 prompts, then refined manually by me in 30 minutes. It used to take me one whole day just to write one script, just for your comparison. And my producers in the past, right, couldn't even write those scripts. I mean, they didn't even want to try to learn. So, some more, okay? Marketing plans specific to my business are recommended by AI also, and the results fed back to AI for knowledge management and optimization. So in the past, I need to keep everything in my head or depend on my marketing guy to do all this. And most recently, right, even presentation slides was like 75% done by AI, which used to take me 2 days to churn out a new set for new training. Today, I'm not even like talking about the blog post generation, the image generation, and even the video generation anymore. we're talking about Copilot, Nano Banana, VO3. All these are the bare minimum any business must have and use. So you tell me, how can we mere humans compete with AI? And don't even get me started to discuss about robots. 12 months ago, when I saw the Boston Dynamic robots, right, I was still thinking that, wow, no one can afford a $500,000 robot that dances and do parkour. 2 months ago, just 2 months ago, when I went to Shanghai, right, 50 to 60% as capable robot from the China company called Uni3 that is already commercially available. They can be purchased at 15,000 yuan. That's renminbi, Chinese yuan, as in it is 3,000 Sing dollars only. So those Optimus robots from Tesla, and especially the joke of the year in the form of this Neo robot that was soft launched, those have already lost to the Chinese. Anyway, if we bring the robots into the equation, right, I think even more jobs will be lost eventually. So do you heed the advice of those higher ups to upskill yourself so that you can manage AI and robots? Well, frankly, at the pace of their development, by the time you get your certification, right, AI will manage AI and robots already. So, after saying all this, do I have a solution to all these pointers or not? Actually, I don't. I'm just merely a small business owner who is struggling myself. And I know our government has tried to help by giving grants and programs and coming out with programs. But honestly, right, for the majority of companies and job seekers, these don't work well enough. Now, these schemes tend to help the bigger corporations a lot more because I guess the government isn't as connected to how small businesses work. I mean, they will say that they are trying and have the stats to show, but on the ground, right, still so many small businesses are dying. Same for job seekers. I personally know of people who have been looking for jobs for months without success. And even if they tap into government programs like career conversion program, it's probably a stopgap measure at best because fundamentally there is still a mismatch in terms of the expectation of the job seeker and the ability of the employer to match the salary and also the job scope. And what's worse, even though many job seekers are taking months to find a job, some are just too pampered, too sheltered, and too comfortable to do anything else in the meantime. Perhaps living off their parents is still alright for many young job seekers. My point of this video is this: I'm not complaining. I'm not sowing discord. I'm certainly not against our government, especially in terms of them trying to help. But I don't know what to do aside from pointing out these observations. It truly seemed to me that the policymakers are trying their best and they constantly report positive results. But it also seems that the reality on the ground is not as per what is presented. So for all of those of you, right, who are happily employed, I just wish that you will continue to do so. But for the more vulnerable group who faces a higher prospect of being let go, I think you better start thinking of a contingency rather than just hoping for the best. And for those of you who are not that happy at work, now if it's just about your mental wellness, I urge you to reconsider your urge to quit. Because working almost anywhere else will suck, even when you are your own boss. So my parents' generation, right, will just tell me to suck it up. At least I have a job. Perhaps in this time, those are wise words. And for those of you who are seeking a job, right, honestly, if you put in effort, add in some creativity and learn to make yourself stand up among the sea of applicants, right, I can almost guarantee that somewhere, somehow, an employer just like me would take notice and perhaps you could get that job. Now the trick is to make yourself known and stand out. Just look at all the job seekers who did something unique to get themselves featured on a mothership, and then it's their turn to pick the jobs that are offered to them. So employers today, right, especially small biz bosses like me, we are not looking for another pair of hands, another pair of eyes, or another brain to fill the company's headcount. We are looking at your personality, your adaptability, and your creativity. Because if you can sell yourself well, you probably can give a lot more value to my company. I mean, just watch what I said in my observations earlier, and if you don't do those stupid things that I wrote, right, you're easily top 10% already. Okay, I think it's been a long video, which I think no one would watch until this point. Certainly not the Gen Zs who are job seeking, even if they have the time. But I hope the millennials and the Gen X who are watching this, right, do let me know if my observations make sense. But also do let me know if you thoroughly disagree with me too. I hope to see more different perspective too, okay? Anyway, do subscribe to my channel if you find this video interesting, and like this video too. And finally, share this with a friend to see if they agree, okay? I'll see you in the next video where I'll speak more to small business owners.